Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're turning our attention to Estonia, that really interesting northernmost country in the Baltics.
That's right, and we've got a couple of good sources to guide us. There's a YouTube video, Estonia Explained, and also a useful text document, Estonia History and Culture.txt.
Yeah, both look great.
Our plan for this deep dive is, well, to get a real feel for Estonia. It's got this unique mix, doesn't it? Medieval history right alongside super modern digital stuff.
Totally.
We want to unpack its journey, especially to independence, and figure out what really makes it stand out.
Exactly. And, the sources throw out some great descriptions right away. The video calls it the northern jewel of the Baltics or the southern jewel of Nordics, which is intriguing. And phrases like medieval meets the digital, fights wars with singing, and even the Silicon Valley of Europe.
Quite the set of labels.
It really is. So, okay, let's start with the basics. Where exactly is it and how big are we talking?
Right. So location-wise, it's Northern Europe. You've got Latvia to the south, Russia to the east, and the Baltic Sea to the north and west. It's the northern one of the three Baltic states, Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania.
And size-wise?
It's actually the smallest of the three, roughly, I think maybe New Hampshire and Vermont combined, around 45,000 square kilometers.
Okay, geographically small. What about population?
Population's about 1.3 million people. So yeah, not huge on the global scale. Ranks like 155th by population, 129th by size.
But here's something that jumped out at me. About a third of the population lives in or around the capital, Tallinn. That seems concentrated.
It is quite concentrated, and the video points to history and geography. Tallinn's coastal spot was always crucial for trade, for connecting with the rest of Europe via the sea.
Ah, right, the sea access.
Yeah, and while Estonia has lots of forests and bogs inland, those areas historically just didn't support the same kind of population density as the coast. Trade routes were key.
That makes a lot of sense. Okay, so that concentration isn't random. Now, another thing the video mentioned was this idea of Estonia being another country. What's behind that?
Well, it really digs into Estonia's...
Interesting. But the video also kind of jokes about the climate, right? Can you be truly Nordic if the climate is quite warm?
Yeah, it does mention that. But it also points out the winters can be seriously cold, like record low of minus 43.5 Celsius cold.
Wow, okay. So definitely not all warm.
Not at all. It's a mixed maritime influence from the Baltic Sea, but also continental cold snaps. So this another country thing really captures that complex identity pulling from different directions.
Okay, fascinating.
Yeah.
Let's shift gears and go deeper into the history. Our sources lay out a pretty long timeline, starting way back after the Ice Age. What did that early environment look like?
So after the glaciers melted, you had a landscape dotted with lakes. And the video had an interesting point because these early lakes were low in oxygen, organic stuff built up, didn't fully decompose.
Leading to peat bogs.
Exactly. The bogs that are still a big feature today. The glaciers also left behind those big boulders you see scattered around. And into this landscape, the first Finno-Ugric tribes started moving in.
Then we jump forward to the Viking Age, 8th to 11th centuries. I didn't realize Estonians were active participants then.
Oh yeah. The coastal communities, especially on the islands, were definitely involved. Trade, raids, exploration. They were part of that whole Northern European network, which again reinforces why the coast and places like Tallinn became so important later on.
Right, the strategic location.
Yeah.
Then things shifted with Christianity and the Northern Crusades in the 13th century. That sounds like a major turning point.
Huge. There were earlier attempts at Christianization, but the Northern Crusades were about, well, forceful conversion of the Baltic and Finnic peoples. Denmark conquered northern Estonia in 1219. That became Danish Estonia.
And the video mentioned they later sold it.
Yeah, sold it to the Teutonic Order in 1346. That was a powerful German military order back then. And that German influence is why Tallinn was known as Revel for a long time.
A lot of different powers involved early on. Then later came the Livonian Confederation, and eventually Swedish rule starting in 1561. The text document calls this the good old Swedish time. Why so positive?
Well, compared to what came before and after, the Swedish period brought some key improvements. Things like setting up schools. The University of Tartu was founded.
Education focus.
Yes, and spreading Protestantism, plus land reforms that tried to improve conditions for the peasants, so it laid some important foundations.
But that didn't last forever. The Great Northern War in the early 1700s. Russia takes over in 1710. That sounds like a much rougher period.
It definitely was. The video describes it pretty starkly heavy taxes, forced labor for the Estonian peasants, and on top of that, a massive outbreak of the bubonic plague that just decimated the population. A really difficult time.
Grim. Okay, jumping ahead again to the 19th century, we get the Estonian National Awakening. This feels really crucial for modern Estonia.
Absolutely vital. It was this growing sense of national identity focused on preserving the Estonian language, their folk traditions, their history. A key moment was the first Estonian Song Festival in 1869.
And the video highlighted that those song festivals are still a huge deal today, right?
A massive deal. A really powerful symbol of cultural identity and continuity.
Then World War I comes along, and Estonia gets caught between Germany and Russia. But the chaos also created an opening.
Yes, with the collapse of the Russian Empire in 1917-1918, Estonia declared independence. But they had to fight for it.
The War of Independence.
Right, against both Soviet Russian forces and German forces who were still around. They secured their independence with the Treaty of Tartu in 1920, where Soviet Russia actually recognized Estonia.
A hard-won independence. But sadly, as we know, it didn't last long. World War II brought occupation again.
A really tragic period. First Nazi Germany, then the Soviet Union occupied Estonia. Decades of lost independence followed.
But the spirit wasn't crushed, which brings us to that incredible singing revolution. That phrase, fights wars with singing. It's just amazing.
It really is. From 1987 to 1991, these huge peaceful protests, people gathering and singing patriotic songs that had been banned, it was pure nonviolent resistance.
And the Baltic Way in 1989.
Incredible. 2 million people forming a human chain across Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania. Just an undeniable statement demanding freedom. And it worked. Estonia restored its independence on August 20th, 1991.
Just an inspiring story of resilience. And what happened next is almost as remarkable, this pivot to become a digital powerhouse. The Harry Potter of the digital world, the Silicon Valley of Europe.
Wow, how did they pull that off so quickly? Was it maybe not having old systems to replace?
That's definitely part of it. Starting fresh after 1991 meant they could leapfrog old technologies, but it was also very intentional. Strong government investment in digital infrastructure in IT education.
A strategic choice.
Absolutely. Recognizing that technology could drive the economy and make government more efficient. That fostered this environment where companies like Skype, Bolt, TransferWise could emerge.
And it's not just startups, right? The e-governance aspect is stunning. 99% of public services online.
It's almost unbelievable. Through the e-Estonia platform, filing taxes, voting, health records, pretty much everything. They started e-voting way back in 2005. Pioneers. And that e-residency program, what's the thinking there?
It allows foreign entrepreneurs to establish and run an EU-based company online, even without living there. It's about creating this kind of borderless digital business environment. Super innovative.
How do they make all that digital stuff secure? That seems like a huge challenge.
It's built on a foundation of secure digital identity. Every citizen gets a digital ID card, which uses strong encryption and digital signatures, and they have everything called the X-Road.
X-Road.
Yeah, it's like a secure data highway that lets different government databases talk to each other safely, so you don't have to enter the same info over and over. It's not exactly blockchain, but it uses some similar ideas about secure, traceable data exchange. Building trust in the system was key.
Fascinating system. But Estonia isn't just about tech, is it? They seem pretty focused on green issues too.
Very much so. Known for clean air, and the fact that 98% of their rivers have drinkable water is remarkable. And they've been pushing renewable energy. Plus, the video mentioned Tallinn making public transport free for residents back in 2013. That was a first for a European capital, a big move for sustainability.
It is a big move. We should also quickly touch on the flag. Simple but striking.
Yeah, the blue, black and white, blue for the sky, the lakes, the sea, but also loyalty. Black represents the soil, but also the dark times in their history. And white is for hope, for the future.
A lot packed into 3 colors.
Definitely tells a story.
Okay, finally, both sources mention key places to visit. Tallinn's Old Town sounds like a must-see. UNESCO site, medieval.
Oh, absolutely. Alexander Nevsky Cathedral, the town hall, it's like stepping back in time. But then you also have trendy districts like Kalamaja right nearby, showing that mix of old and new.
That blend again. What else?
Well, Tartu is the university city, the intellectual hub. Home to the University of Tartu, the National Museum. Got a different feel. Parnu is the summer capital, the beach resort town.
And for nature lovers.
Lahima National Park is a big one. Forests, coastline, those famous bogs like Viru Bog, even old manor houses. And then the island's Saaremaa is the largest, known for Kuressaare Castle and windmills, very traditional. And Hiiumaa is quieter, more about lighthouses and rugged nature.
It really seems to offer a lot of variety for a relatively small country.
It really does. History, nature, modern city life.
So wrapping this up, Estonia's story is quite something. From ancient roots, through centuries of being ruled by others, to fighting for independence, and then this incredible leap into the digital future. It's this story of resilience, isn't it? And this unique blend of medieval charm and, well, hyper-modern tech.
That's a great summary. They've managed to hold on to their history while becoming a real trailblazer in technology and governance. It shows this amazing ability to adapt and innovate.
Which leaves us with something to think about, maybe. When you look at Estonia's journey, embracing the digital so fully, while staying deeply connected to its history, what does that suggest for other countries trying to find their way in the 21st century? How do you balance preserving that core national identity while also racing ahead with technological change? What parts are essential to keep?
That's a really interesting question to ponder. What's the core you must protect while innovating?
Definitely food for thought. Well, thanks for digging into Estonia with us today. Fascinating place.